Welcome to Danica Raven's BiteSize Horror. This week we're showing part 1 of an interview with Stevie Douglas from Scare Scotland. He's going to talk to us about what Scare Scotland do, who Scare Scotland are, and about how they train young zombies at the Undead Academy. I hope you enjoy. So to start us off, Stevie, why don't you tell us a bit about what Scare Scotland is?
Scare Scotland, we're a little Scottish-based company, probably the name gives it away. But we started 6 years ago in a sort of a response to horror events and horror films and stuff like that happen in Scotland. Sort of on TV, live interactive theatre, promotion events and various other things. And what was happening was a lot of companies were coming to do this stuff in Scotland and bringing their own folk with them. And as you know, we're always looking to employ the people who live here. So we got together to try and encourage the companies still to come, but we had the skills and talent here for them that they could cherry pick. Rather than having to take loads and loads of folk with them, it was here already. And that was the initial plan. Yeah. But since then it sort of grew arms and legs a little. And we've branched out into loads of stuff. We've done TV shows, we've done films, we've done scare tours, interactive theatres, promotion for movies, game launches, you name it, we've probably done it. And anything weird you can think of, we've probably been out there. Recently, in fact, here's one for you. There's a BBC show just about to come out called Mother, Father, Son. Yeah. And we got a call from them who asked us if we could find them a contortionist.
Did you?
Yeah, we found them. we found them one. We were sort of the last hope for them. Yes. And they called us and they were like, Stevie, we can't get one. Do you know anybody? Just so happens I do. And so the contortionist we know was flown to London and did his bit in front of Richard Gere.
Nice.
And and that comes out in March the 6th, folks.
So you hire a lot of local talents, naturally.
As much as we can.
Actors, performers, contortionists.
Ghostbusters now.
Ghostbusters as well. What else do you tend to get involved in? Because it sounds like it's a little bit of everything going on there.
Yeah, it's not just the film stuff and the live stuff. Although that was initially sort of the remit that we wanted. We found that, like, for example, thing that you were involved in was the Anna and the Apocalypse stuff. You know, that was a sort of zombie musical that came out recently. We did a lot of the promotion events for that, because the basis of what we do is we all started by doing zombie work. Yes. Right, and simple though it is, we turned it into a sort of a performance thing, and sort of, you know, when you sit and watch a zombie movie, most of them are pretty terrible, let's face it, you know. So I'd sit and watch them and go, how do we change that? So we created this thing called Undead Academy to sort of lift people's performance levels and make them better. And so when we send a group of zombie actors in, they know what they're prepared to do on film, on TV sets, and the length of time of pacing themselves. So when it came to sort of Anna and the Apocalypse and various other things, the people were prepared to go in and they know how to interact with the public and all that sort of stuff, which is not a thing a lot of folk can do, because it can be quite dangerous, it can be quite scary, because it's for the actors as well, because you don't know how people are going to react. So we sort of train folk and all that, and the Anna and the Apocalypse guys were like, wow, we never even expected any of this, you know, because we had folk running around and just giving people a bit of a laugh, you know.
Because of course the tricky part is there's so many different types of zombie, from like the old black and white movie kind of slow zombies to like modern day running zombies. Like, so how do you sort of figure out which type of zombie is going to need to be needed for different?
Well, we generally speak to the director or the producer, fight directors and sort of ADs and stuff, assistant directors and stuff like that, to see what they want. And usually we sort of, if we can, we try and get a look at the script and to see where our creative input in that is, and we sort of say, look, for this here you might need sort of people running, you know, more of an infected thing rather than a zombie, you know, the 28 days later type thing.
It's more sort of rabies type
thing. The sort of rage sort of thing, you know, where then you've got your sort of thing that we call the Romero zombie, which is the classic staggering about and bits falling off you and all that. But out of the two, you would think that's actually the harder one, because it's because your sort of hands and you got to get your limbs into sort of really awkward positions, and when you're on a film set, you got to hold that sometimes for a long time, and there's an element of fitness required, and and people can sort of get sore necks and whatever. And then there's the vocalizations. When you watch The Walking Dead, and I'm going to let you into a little secret here, that The Walking Dead zombies actually don't make any noises.
No?
No, it's all dubbed on afterwards.
Also, just a few people in the studio going...
Yeah, they're told to keep as quiet as possible when they're filming the zombie scenes.
That's got to be hard not to make noises when you're trying to...
And they also tie planks to their legs, by the way.
Really?
Yes, we don't do that.
So they just put planks underneath their trousers and stuff?
Yeah, it sounds like torture to me. But
that sounds really, really bad for you.
Yeah, well, our horde, if you like, we teach them how to do all the vocalizations and various things by basically giving them a singing lesson.
Yes.
How to push it up here, because if you sort of start going all the time, but then 2 hours you're talking about this.
You've got lots of high screeching, but also lots of sort of low moans and things like that, so you've got to go quite outside the usual vocal range.
Yeah, and that can be quite challenging. That can be quite tiring as well, because you've got to take a big deep breath before you do it, and you're doing that 20, 30 times in an hour. It's sort of, your muscles start to tighten up, and so we teach people how to sort of pace themselves over a filming day. And that was something we sort of learned the hard way just through our own work on doing it. And that's pretty much how that comes about. But it certainly, it's very noticeable when we go into film sets, we go to do live things, and people work with goes, we never even thought of any of this.
No.
And so, well, there you go. Because we've spoke to folk who've made sort of zombie stuff and whatever, and they've come back and they're going, yeah, it's all great, we've got the extras here, but they're not very good.
No.
See, because they don't have this element, then they're going in, I'm not dissing them here, they're going in and they're doing their best and whatever, but they just don't have that thing that Scare Scotland can give them. And it doesn't just mean zombies, although we do a lot of that. I mean, when it moves on to other creatures, we have that same ethos to bring in. If somebody needs an actor to do a specific thing, like the contortionist, that person might have done any film work before, they can do all the bending around and all this sort of stuff, but on a film set or a TV show or whatever, it needs a sort of discipline that they might not have. So we give them that, we train them into that, and say, like, you're going to get in here, we tell them you're going to go have a long day's film, and you're going to have a lot of sitting around, they're fiddling with lights and doing all they do. And so we'll talk to her, keep yourself moving, keep yourself subtle, find yourself something to do, don't sit and read a book, get up and move around. Because what the Scare Scotland talent, as I don't call them actors, I call them talented talent, because they all do various different things. And so when they go into the set or go into do what they do, the people who are dealing with them are always surprised. Say, God, your people were just fantastic. And then 9 times out of 10 they call us back,
Because it's so movement orientated, Scare Scotland's so specific, because it's a very kind of niche type of acting, I'd say.
Yeah, it is. Aye.
You don't get very many people that are focused specifically on monsters and movement and that kind of thing. And a lot of times, you see with zombies, there's so many different types that it's hard to know what people are going to want in advance, which is why a lot of people just jumping into it and hoping for the best will come up with the wrong type of performance dead easily.
Yeah, the first thing that generally happens is after they do the first 2 takes, they're knackered. Because they've went out there and they've done the takes and they've thrown everything into these takes, and the director wants another one, and everybody's.
Yep.
So you actually see the sort of level of performance going like this, and so that affects the production day as a whole, and in TV, it's not cheap to make this stuff a lot of the time, and time is money, and you've got to sort of, I'm knackered, I need to go and get a glass of water and whatever. The more that clock is ticking and the person wants their shot, our people are always ready to go, and we make sure of that. And there's usually either myself or my partner Chris around, because we make sure we're on set as well. Although we might not be necessarily performing in front of the camera, we are working with our group at the back all the time and geeing them up and getting them up and doing stuff with them and keeping them moving all the time. So when the runner or whoever comes to get them go, I need these people ready, bang, they're up and ready to go. You know, they're not just sitting like this,
No.
which can happen a lot.
Oh, easily.
You
Easily.
know.
Because especially like if it's like things like extra work, you are just sitting about waiting to be told to walk. Whereas with that, as you say, you'll freeze up, or your muscles will just relax, and it's no good because you'll just hurt yourself straight off. So
Well, we this is the thing. Some people think that our company Scare Scotland provide extras. We don't.
no.
We provide performers. You know, it can be one person, it can be 30 folk.
Yes.
You know, and you know, extras are. I mean, they do. These guys are supporting artists, whatever you want to call them. They do fantastic jobs.
Yes.
But we're a different thing from that, and I think that's a slight misunderstanding that a lot of production companies have about us.
I've seen a lot of people hire people as extras to play zombies, and they don't know how much energy and effort and skill that takes.
Well, even the sort of the interactive theatre element that we do, you know, like a few years ago we were involved in a show called Generation of Z, and this was a sort of groundbreaking, and again it was a zombie show, but it was one of the first things we did, and it was interactive theatre taken to another level. Now, I've been involved in interactive theatre for a long time, sort of through the horror scare tour element, and these guys, it was total immersion to the audience, you know, where the audience were going into this show and they were making decisions and what would happen and where the storyline went, and you know, and with this huge sort of underground area that we had in Edinburgh, and the group was split into two, and different things would happen in different parts of this set, you know, but so you could do the show 3 or 4 times and the same different things would happen to you. And where it was challenging for the actors who were in there, although none of our folk, they brought their own principal actors, these guys had to learn 3 or 4 different scripts, compared to determining what the audience thought. So I had just started Scare Scotland then, and I was like, right, what can I learn from this? And I watched in a very methodical way of what we could take away and learn from that, and learn from those guys. You know, and the work that we do now, when we do our own stuff, or if we're asked to work on something, we bring that and go, well, we know this can happen, and we know this can work for you. You know, when we did this thing in Glasgow a while back called Dread, and we tried to bring as much as that as we possibly could into that. Dread was an interactive live show in Glasgow City Centre, and we brought as much as we could into that. There was a director, but we would suggest things to him, and he would come and say, right, Stevie, I've got this in my story and I want this scare there, this scare, and go, yeah, but we can add this extra element onto it. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, and that's, you know, an interactive theatre is very experimental, so, and that's the good thing. If it doesn't work, you can pull it out, you know, and try it again, you know, because it's all very quick. You're working with audiences for maybe 20 minutes at a time, so if it doesn't work in one, you get them in. But the difference with Generation Z was the show lasted 90 minutes, which is, again, unheard of.
That's hard going.
Yeah, and it was pretty hard work. And what Scare Scotland's job on it initially was to provide 120 zombies twice a day for 31 days.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we did it. Well, the team who did Generation Z, then sadly the name of the company escapes me right now, but I can remember all the names of the actors, but they were a group from New Zealand, and they were invited to bring the show to the Edinburgh Festival, and we got in contact with them about bringing zombies and stuff like that, and they came to us, and but they came across, and this was in the first night of the show. Now we got sort of a core group of zombies, of about 30 zombies that we worked with every night. There were some people dropped in and out who were on the sort of periphery, but we had sort of a core group of 30 that we worked with, and we trained them. Now when the guys from New Zealand came over, now this show had been running in New Zealand for 6 months, and quite successful, but they didn't train anyone, any of their zombies, and so most of the actors who were in the show were playing sort of soldiers and stuff like that. And the first run through that we did with them, the main character, we call him Sarge, came up to me and, do you mind if I swear here? And he came up to me and he went, fuck's sake, Stevie, he says, we'd never been challenged like that in 6 months before the show. You know, he says, you guys were really going for us. You know, and I was like, well, thank you. I took that as the compliment and what it was.
Oh, if you can scare your co-stars a bit, then that makes it even
and
better.
but that lifted their performance.
Yes.
You know, because they'd done the show for 6 months over there, and you know yourself, if you're doing a show for so long, you get into a little comfort zone.
You do.
You know, but every night we did that twice a night. In the end, last week we're doing it 3 times a night, and every night we were just hitting them every time. You know, and we were throwing zombies in there, and those actors did not know where they were coming from half the time. There was bits we couldn't change, but we'd stick actors in there, and these guys would run around with it. No, these things were blank firers, you know, and so they'd walk around a corner with their audience with them, and 10 zombies would just run out at them, and you'd see them going, "Oh Jesus!" You know, and it wasn't acting, you know, and the fact our zombies are taught to take bullet hits and all that sort of stuff, and fall down and scream and all the rest of it, and you could see the fear in these actors' faces. Because we every night I'd get this core group together, you know, and we'd go and hide in the set, and I'm going, right, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and during the whole show it became an us versus them thing.
Yes.
You know, in a friendly manner, you know.
Yes.
And we'd get to the end of the show, and the actors would come up and they go, "Stevie, you ratbag, you know, you never told me you're doing," you know. And so we just hide pockets of cords everywhere, and just do horrible things like barrels flying over the top of the set. And you know, we had a bunch of airsoft guys who turned up in a Land Rover one night with a machine gun at the top of it. We're just going, you know. And these guys in New Zealand, the thing is, they love Scottish people. They're very like us as far as humour and all that sort of goes. And they were loving every second of this, you know. And the airsoft guys we got who came from Edinburgh, they were turning up with this weaponry on a daily basis. You know, you see airsofters, you know, they're like paintballers except better. And the guns all looked real, but they were turning up with Gatling guns with tracer bullets on them, firing them at us. God, this show just became insane. Yeah. And the audience members were coming in, and after we were just running around, and we were going about, what the hell is going on in here? Because it was just chaos. 19 minutes of organised nuts. It was crazy. And there was one guy who sat in a booth controlling all the sort of special effects and stuff. I'm sure he was having a mental breakdown at one point. Because he'd just come out and he'd go, "What are you guys doing? I can't keep up with you." You know, he'd CCTV everywhere, you know, watching when he trigger stuff, and he was like, and you know, and you'd get to the end of the show every night, and we always met with the audience after Generation Z out in this sort of area, because they built a sort of a small shanty town, which was the start of the sort of show, and we'd meet everybody there. So because you got to calm out your audience down afterwards. You'd go out, and you know, and people would be just standing in shock. They'd be like, "What did I just go through there?"
Yep. You know? Just like, remember, guys, it's a show. We're not trying to traumatise you. We're trying to all have fun here.
Well, there was folk who were anchored to the ground in that show. Yeah. They would just not go any further, because they had to do things like I'll give you a decision they had to make. They'd run into a lab, and there'd be a pregnant woman on a gurney, and they'd have to decide if they're going to shoot her in the head or not. You know, because she's infected with a zombie virus, and she's and you know, and so there's one of the characters would put a gun to her head and go, "What are we going to do?" It's
a good big moral decision.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on, and you know, and us people being shoot her, you get that sort of thing, you know.
Yep, you get a bit of mob mentality coming in.
Yeah, and you know, but you would get people crying in the show because they would get so invested in it. You know, they would get so invested in the show that they would, you know, if the decision was taken to blow her brains out, and they had a special effect about you see the back of her head coming out, and then just that, and you know, and it was gruesome. Yeah. And people would wail up and cry because they'd just seen this happen, you know. But you had their classics in it as well, you know, people running around with chainsaws, chopping the arms off of zombies and stuff like that, you know. We had the classics in it, of course.
Oh, you've got to include the classics.
You know, but that was a big learning process for us, and that was you know, I still get excited about it now, you know. And as you probably noticed.
I did notice. It's great.
But out of that, you know, it was a big learning process for us, and out of that we got a TV show out of it from the Tiger Aspect company, production company, and it was called I Survived a Zombie Apocalypse. And it was a sort of a Big Brother-y type thing, except they got 10 people and they locked them in a complex, in a compound in this old shopping centre, and for 10 days they were locked in there and we just battered them with zombies. And they would come out and do sort of crystal maze type sort of challenges, except they'd come out for food, water, you know, how to get a signal, and some of the show itself wasn't that successful, right? It wasn't, but again, it was another learning experience for the company, because everything we'd learned in Generation Z about training people up and getting a performance level out of them, we knew how to take that from the live aspect of working directly with an audience to putting it in front of camera.
So camera work's so different.
It's so different, yeah. And we were like, right, how do we convert this? So myself and my sort of partner who works with Chris, we sat down and we were like, okay, what do we do here? And we must have sat for hours and we working this out, and we got to work with Kieran Parker from Black Camel Films. And he sort of, we ended up working with him on it, and he sort of advises on how sort of camera angles and all that sort of stuff, and how we would need to move folk around and get the best out of the actors and how it would look on screen. You know, and I think it worked pretty successfully as far as the bits that we shot. They didn't use a lot of it, just down to the sort of what happened. There was a lot of politics going on in the show, because BBC Three, which we went out on, was the future of that channel was in the balance at the time, and there was a lot of sort of going on. But yeah, as far as, again, it was another learning process for us, which we felt when we came away from the show. Chris and I sat down and we go, right, what did we get from that, apart from being paid, of course, you know, but what did we get that we can take into other productions, you know? And so again, this Undead Academy thing, we took everything that worked from that and integrated it more. And again, we've moved it into other creatures now, and you know, we've done aliens, we've done Frankenstein, Jason Voorhees, all this sort. We've done all the classics. We've created our own, you know, and we've moved into so many different things. But the heart of us is always going to be in front of an audience, scaring folk, because one, our actors love doing it, and one, we love doing it, and two, and the other one is it's just great fun. And if we can get a group of actors together who feel that and can get into it, then we feel it's successful, you know. And we've got this little niche here in the Scottish film industry, you know, the Scottish TV, interactive theatre industry that we're using, and people seem to like what we do. You know, the BBC seem to want us a lot for stuff. You know, STV want us, you know, we've been promotions right now, you know, I don't know when this goes out, but we're working with the Glasgow Film Festival at the moment, and we're providing an interactive element for them. So when people come in to watch the film, there's something happening before the film goes on, you know.
You did that with, was it Blade?
We did, no, that was with the Edinburgh Film Festival. That was, yeah, that was fun. Yeah, Blade, I totally forgot about that one, I shouldn't have. That was a group, that was two different, that was the Edinburgh Film Festival and a group called Hidden Door. And the movie Blade, they asked us to bring the movie to life. And we were like,
That's a new challenge.
Yeah, and we were like, okay. We'd done stuff movie related before. But we were like, okay, they want us, so what did we do? They told us what the concept was, which they were going to show the movie on a big screen. And they wanted to, and it was in an old theatre in Leith in Edinburgh, and they wanted stuff happening around, as if the people were in the film. So I'd worked on a show called Alien War before, which was, again, brought another film to life. And so I had a bit of an inkling, you know, I was like, right, okay, there's sort of certain bits you can take from the movies and make it work and put people in the middle of it. And so I took that and I says, right, okay. And we didn't do the whole movie because it would just been too much in the actors.
Was it like the busier scenes, like the sort of nightclub type scene in the movie and things like that, or was it more the kind of fight scenes?
Well, it was bits of it like that. Like we concentrated a lot on the nightclub scene because it's classic scene in the Blade film. I'll give you an example. There's a bit at the very start where Blade walks up to get into the nightclub.
Yes.
And he's standing talking to a bouncer, and the bouncer won't let him in. So he punches the bouncer in the face, and the bouncer goes through the door and sort of lands. So, but you don't. But then it just cuts to another scene of Blade walking in. So what we did was we got one of our guys to dress exactly the same as that bouncer, and and just as as Blade punched the guy in the face, and the actor in the film went back, our actor came through the double doors into the theatre at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
And although that sounds easy,
No, it wouldn't be.
if you're 1 or 2 seconds out with that, you know, then it just looks silly. Because, you know, and the guy who done it, Willie, he couldn't see the screen.
No.
You know, because he obviously had to hide himself. So we had to go and we had to watch Blade, 15, 16 times. So we knew what we were doing. And writing down the cues, and because, right, Willie, you've got to listen intently. The second you hear this line, you've got to come crashing through that door and roll on your back on this, you know. And I was standing up at the back of the theatre and wait, because that was our first big moment, you know, when people realised something was happening in the theatre as well as the movie. And I'm waiting, and I honestly, I was scared, right? I was like, don't blow this, Willie, don't blow this, you know. And bang, through he came, you know. And he's rolling around, and he got up and he dusted himself down, and he's holding his nose because he's running across, and people in the audience just went, "What the hell?" You know, and then we did all the other things, and then we had vampire hunters in it, and we had the vampires, and they're going to squaring each other up, and everything just went off to a T. And then we had that sort of, and there was another interactive element in it, which wasn't provided by us, but we had actors in it where people could go round to the back of the theatre, and they could get clues, and they had to find things to get into other parts of the theatre. They needed codes, and they needed to put, and there was a bit you could put your hand on this pad, and this thing scanned you and told you if you were human or vampire.
Alright.
And it was just a random thing.
Yes.
But we had actors going around, and if it came up human, we'd start treating them like crap. And it, you know, you're just food and things like that. And if they come up vampire, we'd we'd buy them a drink. You know, and it was really fantastic, you know. And then they would go in, and there was a classic character they would go into. I can't remember the name of the character, but this sort of big, heavy, fat thing.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, and we had a girl called Sandra playing that, and she nailed the voice, and you know, and we hear a squeaky wee voice, and you know, and then you'd point this sort of light at her, so she would burn and get, you know, smoke coming off. Yeah, and it would, you know, and everything just went off fantastically well, you know, and yeah, that led to the Glasgow Film Festival stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the people who work in that was at the Blade thing, and came up to us and went, "Could you do that in Glasgow?" And I was like, "Well, we're from Glasgow, you know." And so we ended up involved in that. So this year, they had us doing one project last year, and this year they've got us doing 5.
5?
Yes.
That's a lot of organising for you.
It takes up a lot of time, yeah, but it's worth it. You know, like the other day, you know, we did the Ghostbusters. This is again when they ask us for weird stuff. You know, the person, Sandra, who's the sort of your contact there. Stevie, can you get us some Ghostbusters? Seriously? You know, and so we got them some Ghostbusters, and they come in, and because it's a kids film, sort of, the kids were coming in, and the Ghostbusters of Glasgow, they're called, if you want to look them up, and they were absolutely fantastic with the kids, you know. Because, you know, nobody knows this was going to happen, so they come in, and the kids, it was like seeing Santa, you know, and all these wee kids coming in their Ghostbusters costumes and stuff with their mammies and daddies, and then they'd see one of the Ghostbusters standing in the Hall of the Arches, going up to them with the prop that goes like this, and it was like Santa. They were like, and that makes it worth it.
Definitely.
You know, and then they were getting selfies with them and stuff like that, you know, but I think a lot of the adults who were there were just using their kids as an excuse to come and watch that film.
I mean, let's face it, Ghostbusters is a totally different film when you're an adult.
Yes, aye, yes. There's certain scenes in there which, and a guy called Walter Pecker having no penis and stuff like that. But no, that's led to that stuff. And see, we're doing Alien with them this week
Yes.
as well, and Blair Witch Project. We're doing Fight Club with them. But we're involved with another group called Stage Fight Scotland. On that, they're doing all the sort of beaty up stuff, and we're going to do that. And it's been an absolute blast working with the club. Last year we did the Dawn of the Dead with them.
Yes.
And that was...
Is that the original or the remake?
The original. And and what we built for them for that was a whole thing around Glasgow. They weren't the audience members weren't told where it was being filmed, where it was being shown. Sorry, they had to go around Glasgow and pick up clues to where it was going to be.
All right.
And so they would go into venues to get a clue, and that would take them the next bit in. When they'd go into venues, there'd be zombies waiting on them. So they'd go into a shop or something, and they'd go, "Can you tell me what this is?" And 10 zombies would run out at them, you know. And they're going, "Oh my God," you know. And we had zombies in George Square and St Enoch Square and all these places. They would pick up clues, and then eventually they would get to the venue where it was being shown, and there'd be more. Then obviously the classic Dawn of the Dead thing. It was in a shopping centre, Buchanan Galleries. I can tell you that now, right? But they sort of run into there and they'd show their ticket. I found it and whatever, and then they'd open the door and there'd be a horde of zombies standing there waiting for them. Oh my God! And they had to go through all this to get to their seat.
Because it's quite daunting when you suddenly come across a horde.
It is, especially our lot who are going for it, you know, and you know, it was certainly an experience, and the feedback we got from that, you know, was incredible. You know, the Glasgow Film Festival, people come up to us and said, we saw what you did in Blade, and now we saw what you did in this. What else can you guys do? We will be in contact. And we hear that a lot, right?
Yeah.
And we thought, we've done this, so let's move on.
I will get in touch.
And then the email came, these guys come in for a meeting, and we were expecting maybe one film to do. And then they went, "Can you do this, can you do that, can you do this?" And we were like, okay. And the good thing about Scare Scotland and its people is we're resourceful. You know, I've always said that, the people who are part of it, we're very resourceful. And although Chris and I might not know personally as someone who can provide something, somebody in Scare Scotland will.
Yes.
You know, and go, "Well, I know somebody can do that, I know somebody can do this, I know somebody can do that." And it's great that way because there is a community element there. And you know, and we can always delve into that when we need it, and if we do need something unique, you know. Again, the BBC, we did a thing for them about the serial killer with Tim Roth in it, and they were having some problems with their actors because Tim Roth, being a method actor, was getting a bit sort of, and he was playing this creepy serial killer where he was actually being too creepy.
Yes. Oh, easily done, easily done.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of the character. It was a true story, right? Yes. The actors he was working with were getting uncomfortable with what was happening, with him burying bodies in the walls and stuff like that. So I put a call out, and they were like, "Does anybody fancy getting buried in a wall?" You know, and poked and prodded by Tim Roth, you know, and all we needed was 3 folk, and I get 25 applications, and I'm like, right, who do I pick here, you know? But there was a certain set, they needed to be a certain size and whatever because they were stand-ins and stuff like that, so they went away up, and they had a great time, and that stuff. Then they wanted somebody to be hung.
Yes.
And we were like, and because the actor who was going to do it bottled it. Because he was only jumping like this off the deck, you know, because they can bodge this to sort of make it look more what it is, you know. So one of our lads, Patrick, went along, and that was quite a bizarre conversation, you know. I phoned him up, "Hey Patrick," and he's going, "All right, Stevie," and he's going, "How do you fancy being hung tomorrow?" He's like, "Do you know the thing about Scare Scotland? Don't even question it.
No.
They just go, 'Yeah, all right, what time you want me there?'" And I'm like, you know, you can ask those silly questions within this community, you know, and if you said it out with, you've been in the nick, you know, you've been in the jail, you know. I hung a guy yesterday, I sent him up to Trongate, and You know, right, away you go, you know.
I mean, if you'd said that to a random actor on a casting call, they'd think that they were in serious danger.
Yeah.
But not one of the Scare Scotland bunch, definitely
No,
not.
but what happened in the end of that was Patrick turned up at the film set, and the actor who bottled it, who shall remain nameless, changed his mind.
Oh no!
And I don't know, Paddy was like, I need to do it, you know. And he's at one point, I believe Paddy was standing on the thing, trying on the noose.
Yes.
You know, a bit comfortable over that way, you know. And the actor was going, I think I better do this, you know.
Yep. He's like, I'm missing my opportunity here.
He was putting a hood over anyway, so you know that's how you know. But Paddy ended up not doing it, but he still got paid.
Oh, that's
because he was dressed exactly the same, and he was similar size and build and stuff, and so the Paddy was getting ready to shoot the scene, and the actor changed his mind in a way and done it. But hey, he got to sit down and watch the other guy.
He's got to be a bit more involved anyway.
Aye, so. But it was nice to get those phone calls.
Yes.
You know, when people ask you for weird stuff. You know, and
it keeps the job quirky.
You know, my day job, the day job that I've got is I work with young people, you know, and that can be sort of quite strange and challenging at times, you know. But when somebody's phoning you up and going, can you send me 3 people to bury in a wall? You know, you're not going to get that doing youth work, you know.
So you said that youth work wasn't complicated enough for you to get yourself something even more random.
Yeah. But it's like we do try and make it fun for our actors, you know, our talent, that when we go and do an event, especially when there's a crowd of folk, we always make sure there's no sitting around. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a time and place for that, you know. But we always try and keep we will have activities for them today. And so when we did the TV show I Survived a Zombie Apocalypse, we insisted on an exclusive zombie area, and they built this 2 big tents for us. Mm-hmm. And we had couches and videos playing and PlayStations and stuff just to keep people up, and you know, they'll just get in, do their scene and go. But sometimes we were there that early, the zombies were coming in and just falling asleep. So, you know, but
just in the makeup chair, like.
Yeah, it did happen because we were there so long, and you were there from 6 in the morning, sometimes 11 at night. It was long days. And but we always make sure there's always something to do, and there's something going on, you know. But it doesn't interfere with the film, just to keep people's spirits up and keep them moving around, and you know, we believe that works, and I think we bring that ethos to the projects we're asked to work on. Mm-hmm. And everybody always says 100% that what you lot bring is enthusiasm. See, it's very, especially, you know, if they've been working on a film for 3 months and we come in 3 months after that and they're a lot piling, hey, here we go, hey, you know, and it sort of bleeds onto the other, everybody else around, and sort of lifts them up, you know.
Yes.
And that certainly came across in I Survived a Zombie Apocalypse, because there was hard and professional TV people working on that. There was guys from Blue Peter and all these kids shows and TV shows that they'd all worked on. They were telling, I worked on this, I worked on that, but they were all done it, been it, seen it, done it.
Yep.
You know, but our lot come in and everybody was coming to work going, this is nuts, this is great fun, you guys are brilliant, you know, because our lot were just so enthusiastic, you know? And then we got to kill the contestants as well.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun because one of them was sort of cheating a little bit, and we had an unofficial hit list.
Oh.
You know who you are if you watch this, because I know 1 or 2 of you contestants out there I keep in contact with. As far I got to play a character called the Abomination in that, and
yes.
That's what
I've seen some pictures of you as the Abomination.
Yeah, that's the sort of my 15 minutes, if you like.
Yes.
You know, and I still get sort of recognised a little bit for that, and I've had some strange. After that went out, I had some sort of bizarre experiences. I get chased down Queen Street in Glasgow by a pile of goths.
Yes. Go to Glasgow.
Me and my partner Julie were out, they used to hang around outside the art, the modern art gallery.
Yes.
They used to hang around out there.
You sit on the stairs up there, yeah.
And I was walking past there one day. How they recognise me, I don't know, right? And I'm walking up, and suddenly this wee girl about this height, you know, I'm 6'4", I'm a big guy, you know, so, and standing in front of me and she goes, "You're him, aren't you?" Who? You're him. Oh, don't know what you mean. You're definitely him, aren't you? Tell me who you mean. You're the abomination. And I goes, yeah. And she went, it's him! Next thing you know, I'm surrounded by these goths, you know. And I'm like, oh God, you know. And I was secretly lapping it up, right?
Oh yeah,
you know.
Club, right?
Yeah. And so selfies and autographs, but it was getting a bit sort of overwhelming for me, and I needed to go and do what I was doing. So I started sort of walking down Queen Street, and I'm looking around, and they're following me.
Aye.
And I'm like, they must have been putting their. So I'm starting to sort of walk faster, and when I walk faster, they were walking faster.
Oh.
And eventually I just started running down Queen Street, and eventually went, oh, well, leave me alone now. And
Don't get me wrong, you being a tall guy, I get would give you away to an extent, but because all the creatures that you end up playing end up always, you know, heavy makeup, sometimes prosthetics, it's amazing that they actually recognise you.
Well, but you've got the other side of it as well.
Yes.
Where we're out to the shop one day where I lived in Glasgow at the time, and you know, even though I was that element of fame, if you like, you got to still go to the shop to get your bread and milk.
Yep.
You know, so I'm over at the shop, and I lived in Cambuslang in Glasgow at the time, and into the Co-op, bread, milk, and a few other odds and ends, and I get out the shop, and I'm waiting to cross the road, and this wee boy comes up to me, and he's maybe 13, 14, and he goes, going to give you an autograph, mister? And I goes, I no bother. So he hands me a bit of paper and a pen. So what's your name? And thanks for watching the show, wee man, and all that. And he's going, I never watched the show. It's for my ma. And I was like, all right, what's your ma's name? And she goes, whatever it was, you know. And I can't remember, so I wrote it down. Hands goes, says thanks your mum. And I'll see you later, wee man. Tell you a lie, I did watch it and I thought you were fucking shite. Thought you were swearing.
No, that's the Glasgow pattern right there.
So I was like, everybody's a critic, you know.
It's just that he's waited for you to hand over the autograph and he's going, yeah, shite.
I thought it was just, and he just turned around like it was, and I was pretty devastated. That deflated me a fair bit, I've got to admit. That ended my 15 minutes right there. But that was my own personal input into it, you know, because, and there was quite a lot put into that character. There was a lot of debate of who was going to play him and all that, you know, and I did sort of fight a little bit for it when we were putting it together, because they had this picture in their head of what they wanted, because there was a lot of Resident Evil stuff and they wanted all this, and I went, I'm doing it.
Yep.
And I go, no, well, we want this, and they approached all these agencies and stuff. We want this guy here, and what big names, famous names here, and I'm going, I'm hiding the pictures. You know, no, you don't want him. And they had this wall in the production room with all these folk they wanted, and I was pulling them off the wall and putting them up, and eventually they went, aye, all right.
Cool.
But I think I did really well at it, and I enjoyed it, and I was not the fittest man in the world when I did it, because I had to run backwards and forwards through the length of that shopping centre about 6-7 times a day, and my tongue was hanging out my ears when I was finished. But it was so much fun. I did it in adrenaline,
yes.
And I nearly killed a cameraman as well. That's another story for another day, I think. Anyway, but Scare Scotland, that's where we are, and we're willing to give anything a bash. You know, and if we can't do it, we know someone who does, or know someone that can, and people enjoy working with us. You know, even if it's the guys who are just providing the minibuses and you know, or the cameraman and makeup folk, they always comment about the enthusiasm and the professionality. You know, and we don't overwhelm either, and we don't make it about us. No. You know, we don't go in and go, Scare Scotland this, Scare Scotland that, and we want this out of this. We say, we're here to work in your production. You know, we're not going to plaster our name all over it. No. And that's important to productions, because it's not got to become about the company that's providing something.
Thank you for tuning in to watch part 1 of our interview with Scare Scotland's Stevie Douglas. Please tune in next week for part 2.